All right, boys, we're going from one guest into another. We've got RJ Boehman from 32 Analytics. Man, it's an absolute pleasure to bring you on as somebody that got turned on to your analytics and
Yo.
the way that you
Pause.
pause, big pause,
Whoa.
got introduced to the way that you guys break down the game of basketball. Was excited to bring you on to the show today. So RJ, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Super happy to be here. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
So if you don't know, 32analytics.com breaks down basketball the way that Todd Golden, we imagine, is going to break down basketball. So I wanted to get the analytic approach because everything that we've talked about with Todd Golden has been about being innovative on the analytical front. So RJ, as a guy that's probably at the forefront of basketball analytics, give us your thoughts on the Todd Golden to UF hire.
Yeah. I think, from an analytical perspective, obviously Todd Golden has been a huge hit in college basketball. He's very, analytically focused. If you look at his offenses the past couple of years, he's shown an ability to adapt to his strengths, right? I think 2 years ago, he was, very three-point line focused, wanted a lot of threes, switched this year to the post just because that's where his strengths were on offense. You look at his ability to develop talent. I mean, Jamari Bouya, who hit a hell of a shot this year in the tournament. But they got him in his freshman grade, according to 32 Analytics, 75.03, jumped him up to 83.25 by his sophomore year. He finished his college career at a whopping 88.05. I mean, that's good for 19th in the country. I think that's a hell of a testament to his ability to develop guys. And then you look at his ability to identify guys in the portal. I'm going to totally mispronounce this guy's name, so apologies ahead of time. But Yahed Masalski, he transferred from San Diego. He had a player grade of 84.66 before he transferred. I think that is a heck of an eye in the transfer portal. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but Florida loses, 6 guys this year? Is that right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, attacking the transfer portal, that's going to be a heck of a way for him to get Florida back up and running to where they should be.
Now we obviously are still learning about him, but what kind of player will he be looking for in the portal? I think the portal has changed college basketball even more than college football, just because you have smaller rosters and a couple guys can really reshape a team in offense, defense. What kind of guys will Todd be looking to bring to Gainesville for his first team?
Yeah, I think, he's got to be concentrating on guys who can shoot. If you can't shoot, you might as well not even play the game, in my opinion. Like, you have to be able to shoot, especially in a major conference basketball. I look at some teams in the ACC and the Big East that can't shoot. They weren't competitive this year. So he's got to go after shooters and he's got to go after rebounders. If he can, find those two types of players, he'll have a lot of success, especially in a conference like the SEC. A lot more physical, better athletes. If he wants to compete with the cream of the crop there, those would be my targets, or my advice to him would go after shooters and offensive rebounders.
What are his cons? What's his downside?
I think,
what are San Francisco fans gripe about him?
I think, San Francisco, I'm not too in tap with why their fans have right with him. I mean, he took them to their first tournament in 1998. So, I don't know if they would have any complaints with him. I think one of the downsides is that he's, a little bit younger. I think he's 36 years old. And the coaching in the SEC is, it's the best in the country. You look at, John Calipari, Bruce Pearl, Rick Barnes, the list goes on and on and on. And, for him to come into a conference like that, I think that, he'll have to establish himself early and often. And so that would be one of my, kind of hesitancies with him. But, on the other side, if a guy's young like that, you want to know, can they coach, right? Are they experienced enough to know how to coach? And you look at, some of the stats we had this year for him. We had San Francisco, with an expected win of 21. They overachieved at 22. And the West Coast Conference this year, that's pretty impressive. I mean, they got, I think, 4 teams in the tournament. If I might be a little off on that, but it was a competitive conference. And the WCC in general is a very competitive conference for a mid-major conference. You look at, again, the ability to adapt to the roster, which I kind of touched on earlier. where are their strengths at. Obviously, a year ago, it was from the 3-point line. This year is a little more paint focused. And then the past 2 years, they were one of 3 WCC schools to be top 100 in both offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency. That's a testament to his coaching at such a young age. So I get he's young, but the guy can clearly coach.
What do some of those numbers mean for kind of the layman when you talk about basketball efficiency? Is it number of trips? Is it number of points per trip, or how does that break down?
Yeah, sorry about that. So you're with adjusted offense and defense. You are eliminating. You're taking into account possessions per game, right? So you want to get an idea of how they're performing in line with the possessions they're taking per game. So obviously, like with a team that plays more up tempo, they're going to have more possessions per game. But you want to create an equal playing field for a team like Virginia or Wisconsin that like to slow the game down. So you want to almost take away the amount of possessions they get and just look at the efficiency there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So Florida's going to have to rebuild a roster, rebuild a pretty apathetic fan base. Is Todd Golden, obviously only had 3 years at University of San Francisco, had a decent year, had a down year. And then obviously this year they made the tournament. Is he a guy that you think can turn it around pretty quickly? Is he more of a builder, or, what can Florida fans kind of expect out of, Todd Golden's, first year or two?
Yeah, no, I think that he's a guy that can get it going, pretty quickly. I think, especially in the landscape of college basketball with the transfer portal, guys on penalized for sitting out a year, he should be looking to rebuild it as quickly as possible through there. And then, I kind of touched on it earlier. He can clearly develop talent at a pretty good clip too. So, he should be able to get those guys and develop them, to a pretty competitive team. And he's young. Like, if we look across the landscape of college basketball, younger coaches, they tend to kind of get fan bases excited. They're out there working, they're in the community, they're engaging with everyone. That's what I would expect from him.
I think he's probably still going to get ID'd when he tries to go to balls for the first time. Nick, what do you think?
Well, no one should go. Sure. No one should go there. But I think, unless he can start growing some peach fuzz, I think maybe he might get ID'd.
RJ, can he grow a beard? RJ, has anybody ever seen him with a stash?
I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. Maybe he will now that he's down in Gainesville.
I wanted to ask you guys take a pretty analytical look at basketball. I read a Ken Palm article, and it was about his strategy with fouling, and it seemed almost up 3 points. Hey, foul if the ball's in a bad foul shooter's hands, even though we're up, foul him.
Right.
How is he kind of? I guess it's a new wave of basketball, looking at the numbers and using analytics to shape the way you're coaching a game. How does Todd Golden use analytics in your estimation? And then tell Gator fans about this fouling, because I don't think it's something that we've seen, in the last 2 coaches with Billy Donovan and then with Mike White. So I think there's going to be some head scratching when Florida's, fouling before half.
Yeah, no, it's very unique. But so he's very analytical. To answer your first question, very analytically minded. I think I was reading an article earlier this year on him, and forgive me, I forget who wrote it. But he's got a stats guru on his staff that he uses a lot and he goes to a lot. His approach to basketball is very analytically minded, and like you said, an example of this would be fouling up 3 before half. So the idea there is that he looks at the total expected points. So if there's a player that if let's say for instance Florida's up 3 before half, the opposing team inbounds to a player who doesn't have a great free throw shooting percentage, right? Let's say they're shooting 50% from the field. Florida fouls him, he goes to the line. That's an expected 1 point per possession. If Florida is averaging more than 1 point per possession on that game, or during that game, or even on the year, he's going to go, okay, well, I'm averaging more than 1 point per possession. The opponent is going to, he's expected to hit at 1 point per possession on this, possession here, excuse me. That's a win for me because I'm going to score more than my opponent. So they might be up 3 before half, foul them, and they could go up, 5 or 6 if they hit a 2 or 3. The guy misses, the front end of a 1-and-1 there. So he's trying almost to steal points before halftime before doing that.
Sure.
And, you
that's
gotta be smart
a great
about
explanation for someone like me. It made me understand. Thank you.
Here's my thing,
Yeah,
guys. Like, say he does that whole scenario, right?
Mhm.
And we lose because of it. Is he prepared for like SEC media as well? Like, how media savvy is he?
Nobody's ready for
cultural.
SEC media. Especially at 36 without a follicle of hair on your face.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't think our basketball culture, like, I don't think we're that bad, to be honest with you. I just think we want a nice product and to make the tournament consistently.
Yeah, not that bad.
That's a good start, Nick. That's a good start. You know what I'm saying? Billy built something here. Love yourself.
He did.
But if he does these little numbers, analytic stuff, and he struggles early, right? Because he's gonna go through some lumps. He's a young guy. He's going against some of the best coaches in the country. So, in my opinion, he's gonna take some early lumps. How media savvy is he?
Yeah, I haven't watched many of his pressers this year. I think his pressers in the NCAA tournament were good. It seems like he's very open with the media. I think what we were talking about earlier, the SEC media is a little bit different than the WCC media, especially even in San Francisco, where they might be focused a little bit more on the Warriors out there or a few of the other pro teams. In Gainesville, you guys, Florida's the top dog. Not to use a Georgia reference, sorry about that.
No, that's all right, man. They
but,
got white.
yeah, exactly. No, but I think that I think the fact, again, I keep going back to this. He's young. He should be able to handle the media. He's got 3 years under his belt as a head coach. That he's been around it a little bit. I don't want to say he's seen everything because, again, like we said, the SEC media is a little bit different. But if some of that analytical stuff goes wrong, that's kind of who he is and what his identity is. He's going to live and die by it, whether or not the media likes it or not. That's made him, it's made San Francisco very successful. Brought them to their first NCAA tournament since '98. I think, the media tries to apply some pressure on there. I wouldn't really anticipate many changes. That's who he is,
That's especially at that age. That's probably like, hey, you're going to a big job. You've got to stick with what got you there. And if that's analytics and going hack a Shaq at halftime, then hey, listen, it got me the job. I'm gonna do what got me here.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna be who he is.
And us fans are gonna do our job as well, RJ.
Bro, you guys are hell. Y'all are hell.
Everybody got a job here to do.
It.
Everyone's got a job.
Everybody got a job.
Jeff's clocking in at 8:45. I'm here for work early on Monday.
He's here for work. Right after the loss happens, so clocks in. Yeah. He's ready to go.
Get that fouling shit out of here. No, I'm just playing.
RJ, I've got a question. Obviously analytic driven, but what is his offensive style? Florida really lived and died by the 3 for the last few years. If they were hitting, there's a pretty good chance if they were going to win. But it just seemed like, if they weren't, they didn't really have any options. What can you expect, outside of the analytic piece of it, kind of the offense that Todd Golden's going to run? Is he, a bigger 3-point shooter type of coach, or is he, more getting the ball in the paint, or what can we expect there?
Yeah, I think I got to touch on it a bit earlier. He adapts to his roster. 2 years ago, he was second in the country in threes attempted. This year, he's a lot more paint driven, wants to be more efficient in the paint. I know that he runs 4 guards and 1 post player, at least he did this year. So where his roster strengths is going to be where that offense is driven through. If it's guard focused, you can probably expect some more threes. If he gets some big guys in the transfer portal, if he recruits big, then he's probably going to go try and play through those guys. Really based upon where his strengths are.
And I know that this isn't as much your lane, but I want to ask you a little bit about, recruiting and, his
Yeah.
ability there. Do you see him as the type of coach that can really develop? I mean, Florida's really relied heavily on the transfer portal. A lot of schools have, obviously, with the not being forced to sit out a year. Is
Yeah.
he the kind of coach that you think is going to be able to walk into high schools and recruit some of the top players in the country, or do you see a kind of a pattern where he goes and figures out where his needs are and goes to the portal, a mixture of both? What kind of strategy do you think he employs there?
Yeah. So, from what I've seen and what I've read about him, is he's going to look at his team, address what needs, need to be filled. And I think last year he attacked those needs through the portal. I could see him hiring a good staff, though. I think that's going to be crucial, is the staff that he's going to hire. And those guys get him into gyms around, Florida and SEC country, and he tries to keep some of that local and regional talent home from high schools. From what I know about him and everything I've read about him, is that he does look to address his needs through the portal. I think he brought in 3 transfers this year to San Francisco, but those were just where his needs are. If that could change at Florida. It's not necessarily we did this one way at this school, so we're going to do it this way in the future. Kind of look for him to address his needs where he sees fit.
Yeah, and not to dominate the conversation, I have a question. Florida has assistant coach Pastrana, Eric Pastrana. That's a very well-known recruiter. Came to Florida from Oklahoma State, originally from Florida. You have Perkins, who is the assistant or is the acting head coach right now. Do you see a situation where Todd Golden tries to keep either one of those guys, or would you put a preference on one, or do you think he's going to go elsewhere to try to fill those gaps and needs?
Yeah, I could see where he keeps one, especially to keep. I think that they've got a pretty decent recruiting class coming in the next year, if I'm not mistaken. So I could see where you'd want to keep one of those guys. Whoever the dominant recruiter was on some of those guys would be probably my guess. And then you would look to fill the other staff spots with maybe a transfer specialist, maybe another recruiter, maybe more of an X and O's guy. Again, it kind of depends on what he sees best there.
And is there anything that he's going to be looking for in an assistant coach, a certain kind of basketball? I mean, do you think he goes for, the more analytic mindset, or do you think he just leads from the front on the analytics and then tries to fill in, the gaps where maybe, some of his, weaknesses are?
Yeah, I would guess. So I think his director of operations may be incorrect on that, but I think his director of operations at San Francisco was kind of the analytical guru there. But I would look for him to, keep him with him and get his analytics, from him. And then if I were him, I would look into hiring, somebody with former head coaching experience, because Florida is a bigger job than San Francisco, right? SEC, you got, we're just talking about SEC media. So to help him navigate that, especially for how young he is, that would be something that I would look for.
Cool. Nick, Corey, anything else?
No, I'm Gucci.
Awesome. Well, RJ, I want to give you the chance to pump the tires of 32 Analytics and let everybody know what you guys do and where they can find and subscribe to y'all's information.
Yeah, appreciate it. Again, appreciate you guys having me on. Had fun talking Florida basketball on here. But you can find us at 32analytics.com. We look to provide a little bit more information, kind of a deeper dive into player and team performance. We've created a few stats, which, I think our most exciting one is our player grades. It's almost like, how I like to explain it to people that might not be as analytically minded. It's like a 2K rating for the guys out there for our college basketball players. And we do NBA stuff as well. So if you're an NBA fan, check it out. But yeah, really appreciate you guys. Again, you can find us at 32analytics.com. Please subscribe. Helps us continue to do what we do. So thank you.
I love it. Like a little bit more like a pro football focus for college basketball in the NBA.
Very similar.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Awesome. Well, RJ, man, it was an absolute pleasure. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media as well.
Yeah, you can follow me at RJ Boehman, and our handle is 32 Analytics. So Please check us out. Oh, I just want to note real quick, our URL is 32 spelled out, so we do get a lot of questions there.
Okay.
But appreciate it, guys.
Perfect. RJ, thank you
Thanks,
so much,
RJ.
my friend.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.
We'll talk to you soon.